Sorry.
It's all right. We're not recording yet. And I'll get the record to the cloud.
I have a screaming headache already.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was in court literally from 9:15 on a Zoom court from 9:15 till 10:05.
Oh, that's brutal.
So.
That's
All
way
right.
worse. So.
Yeah. All right. Looks like maybe Cheryl's here in the waiting room, so let me get her in and then we'll call to order. So we do have quorum. Yep, that is Cheryl. Okay, so let me see. We've got myself, we've got Cheryl, Mike, Karen, Mary Lee, and Maureen. So all members but Gwen and Juliet present. And Dr. Harrison as well, and a few members of the public. So, all right, let me go ahead and call us to order. So I'll call the Region 9 Board of Education special meeting on Personnel Search Committee on Thursday, March 11th at 6:33 p.m. All members of the Region 9 board are present except for Ms. Denny and Mrs. Berry. And it looks like Gwen is in the waiting room, so let me bring her in so that everybody but Ms. Berry is present then for the board. And we will go to the first item, which is public comment. And there are a few members of the public. So if you would like to speak, either everybody's got their cameras on, so either raise your hand symbol in the chat or turn your cameras on and wave, let us know. If you can announce your name and address, limit your comments to 2 minutes, and to the relevant topic on the agenda would be appreciated. So any members of the public?
The topic is just for the principal search, right? Yeah,
this is, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
No budget matters. That meeting is next. So this is just search committee. And thank you for that clarification. All right, seeing no public members, we'll go to board member comment, agenda item number 3. Any comment from board members? All right. Then we'll go on to item number 4, discussion and possible action. Item A, search process for Region 9 Assistant Superintendent and Head of School. So let me just start out and appreciate again board members joining and administration before we get to the budget meeting here in about an hour. So I hate to have us stack up meetings, but there are so many meetings on the calendar that I think this is probably the only way we can get them in a timely manner. And I did want to have this meeting so we could talk through the process as a Region 9 board on how we want to go about the search. And we don't have to work out all the details, but I think at least at a high level, we need to decide if we're going to form a steering committee, if we're looking to hire a consultant, and talk high level on timeline, because I do think time is a bit of the essence, that we would need to get a job posting out there, start getting some candidates in, start interviewing, April, May timeframe. And Dr. Harrison, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's usually when the pool of candidates start interviewing to move around. So I want to make sure we get the biggest pool that we can of candidates. So I don't want to wait and start it over the summer where people probably start making their decisions already for the next school year. So that was the reason for doing this. So I'll open it up for any discussion. I know we all just went through this with Dr. Harrison's search not too long ago, so we can follow a similar process or go a different route. But I know the board chairs, we've talked about documenting out what the process was, because it seems sometimes we have different views as we do this every couple of years when we're hiring someone. And so, just from the steps of that, we were thinking along in a short process, and we don't have to use that, but we've got some steps there if people need a refresher. But we've done things like forming it. We've got our personnel search committee. We've already formed that. That's everybody here. We have we can go steering committee route and create a subgroup for that. We can engage a search consultant and then do the job posting and salary ranges, and then we can get feedback from community if we want that, and how we want to capture that. And if we're going to drive the whole thing without a search consultant, or have the search consultant help us through all that, the collection of CVs, the screening of CVs. So again, all those steps that we went through, I think we'd want to do something similar here, and we can, again, just talk through that, I think, here this evening, get some consensus and get rolling. So I'm going to open it up for discussion. I think the big things, immediately is, do we want to do a steering committee and search consultant, and then just high level steps in the process that we're interested in following.
Can I ask you a quick question about the search consultant? Do you think we get a wider pool of candidates with the search consultant?
Good morning, everyone.
Not sure where that.
Sorry, that was me.
Yeah, okay. I think that varies. I think the consultants do have a pool, but I think also, as we've come to find here, right, we have very good positions that when we get those posted out to public in the usual sites, we do get a lot of candidates coming in. So I'm not sure. I know, Dr. Harrison, if you've got an opinion one way or the other on.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that I think that search consultants are helpful to increase and gather a really strong candidate pool, and then also to help with moving through the process. I think that's helpful. I think that in this case, I think that we will have a robust pool of candidates with or without a search consultant. I mean, I think that Barlow's reputation as a school, I think people would see it as a premier place to work and continue their administrative career. I think that there'll be a lot of interest, consultant or not.
So
I have to say that, oh, sorry, Karen, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, so is the main reason for hiring a consultant probably the second part of that equation then, is getting through the process, all the resumes and narrowing it down? Is that?
Yeah, that and typically a search consultant would come in similar to the way it happened with the superintendent. We just used a search consultant in Reading for the hiring of the John Reed principal. They come and do a community profile, gather, do town halls or focus groups, surveys, getting information. So that's always really helpful. And then help assist them with the screening to match potential candidates to the profile from the community.
Thank you.
I have to say that I really liked the search consultants that we used. So when Dr. Harrison, when you were hired, the gentleman we used then, was that the same person who was used for the John Reed principal?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I really thought that he did a very good job of it. He was comprehensive. He was intuitive. He's been there, done that. And I think he knows how to do it and move it along. And, I mean, we have you, Dr. Harrison, so.
Maureen, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think the consultants, not necessarily grabbing a pool, but vetting the pool. And I don't know if we individually or even as a committee could do the level of vetting that would be required, checking of all those references, et cetera. That's voluminous. Now, that having been said, I thought that the consultant, when we had Dr. Harrison hired, sometimes he put his own gloss on things with some of the early resumes, particularly in ways that I wouldn't have not necessarily chosen to do. But that having been said, he did all the background checks, and that is just a big lift that I don't think this committee wants to do.
Yep. And we can't look at it again of saying, well, you can down screen the resumes, but we want all of them to look at, right? I mean, we can set parameters around that as well. I think Mike, was that your hand? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to go the other way. I do see the value of a search consultant in certain situations, and I'm not trying to devalue that. What I will say is that when we did the previous head of school search, we posted the position on CT Reap, and we received a lot of applicants. The other thing that I will say is that I don't want to seem skeptical, but people view it this way, but we're not hiring someone from Silver Springs or from, Nevada, or, it's just not going to happen. We're hiring, the probability is we're hiring someone in one of the towns around us, or another Durgay school district close, or and so what happens is, in the example of John Reed, they spent $20,000 to do this exhaustive search to find the next great middle school leader, which I think they found someone that seems wonderful. I mean, I don't know enough about her, but she seems very, very well qualified. But you could have thrown a stone and hit the school where she works. So yes, it's got some value. I think that a search consultant often can target the candidates to a certain need that the board can express. And oftentimes search consultants do have a different type of pool than might be the ordinary pool that might come out, just from people applying. But I think when we did the last one, we had an ample number of candidates, and I thought we handled it really well. Central office looked through, and 90% of the candidates are either sitting administrators or most of them are sitting administrators, let's face it, and their credentials and everything is fairly easy to research. Again, if you're taking an out of state candidate or something like that, that becomes a little more challenging to track that down and do those reference checks and stuff like that. But again, I can go either way on this, but we really had a lot of success, and I think we'll have a lot of candidates that will apply for this job. And so I don't know, I kind of leaning towards, if I don't have to spend the town's money, I'd rather not. And unless, and the other way too is we could start by posting it and see the candidate pool and see how they come in, and we can always decide to go the other route if we wanted to. But again, and that's just my single opinion, I'm fine with hiring a search consultant if that's the preference of the group. I just don't know that it's absolutely necessary. I think that the position will warrant a quality pool of candidates regardless of whether we have a search consultant or not.
Cheryl?
I just have a question, Rydell. I don't know, with your recent experience having had gone through the search for the JRMS principal, did you find that we did cast a wide net beyond Connecticut or, perhaps, outside of, the state or even the region? And any sense how that pool may have been affected if we didn't work with a consultant?
I think that all of the applicants that we had would have been, we would have had the same, we would have likely had the same applicant pool. I think that in Connecticut and even in the, surround, so we had a couple of out-of-state applicants, but I mean, out-of-state, like, right over the line, out-of-state.
Massachusetts or something, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, not even that far, Cheryl.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking New York, right?
Yeah.
And so we had applicants who would know to go to CT Reap for if they were searching for positions.
But I guess in terms of just the follow-up, in terms of, because the one thing I did find of value in your search, and great results. And, you know, we're glad that you're with us. Is that just having that overall, perhaps subjectivity? I do agree with Maureen's assessment that there was a little bit of steering, but the committee was very, you know, as the tri-boards are, very opinionated and were very engaged. So, you know, we could, as a board, we could always decide to screen more than better. But I did like that objectivity and the reduced time and resources that this would be a burden on central office and their administrative staff at Barlow when we're still trying to level set with COVID and hopefully getting back into the buildings full time. So I just think that having a consultant would be a lot of help in terms of also potentially casting a wide net in terms of diversity, or just looking at things differently, or perhaps bringing, you know, looking at candidates that we normally typically wouldn't look at, just in terms of their skill set, or if they want a different vision for the school, or, you know, a different view of the way if they want to run things. So I would welcome that consultant to be able to facilitate that. But I do, you know, Mike, I do agree with you as well in terms of just the cost. I mean, we're likely to, the pool is going to be likely in the state, you know, if not in the region, because we are a Durg A. But I think, you know, it's fair. I think I would probably, if I had to choose, I'd probably err on the side of just working with a consultant, just because I think it will better facilitate finding a candidate right away. And to the extent that, you know, that we can fill the position sooner than later in time for the school year, I think that a consultant will definitely help.
So I will say this one thing. I'm sorry, Gwen, I don't mean to jump in, but I will say this one thing just about consultant versus no consultant. So it is true that anyone who is looking for an administrative position in Connecticut would automatically know to go to CT REAP. A consultant could be helpful in recruiting people. So in my case, I was not looking for positions. So I wasn't kind of searching on CT REAP. The consultant reached out to me and said, I'm not sure if you're aware that this position is open, but if you're not, you should be, which was exactly the email that I got from him. And then from there, I thought, this was also after, because the consultant will send out a blast email to like a large sort of listserv of administrators. So we get those all the time, and I get it and I delete it, and you know, but so it's good to know that I do delete them. But when I got the call from him, I thought there might be something here that I want to explore a little bit more. So I think that there's the benefit there.
Well, I think we were told that Dr. Harrison contacted the search consultant, and this was the only position that you were interested in, I think was what we heard. So again, very interesting.
We don't need to go there. Let's just work on the process.
Yeah.
So Mike, so just to clarify, so that's not completely wrong. So after he sent the message and said, you should be interested, I reached out to him and I said, tell me more. So that is true.
Okay.
Gwen, you're muted there. Go ahead. Unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, just briefly, I tend to, I take Rydell's last point, I think is an excellent one also. And I tend to align with Cheryl as much as I would also like to save the money this year. I think that, and maybe it's because I feel like I'm completely overwhelmed in my life and all of the things that are pulling me in different directions right now. What's appealing to me is the help with the vetting and all of that would make it, I'm not interested in us having 7 other 5-hour meetings about this. Like I feel like I'm dedicated, but so that's kind of where I'm coming down right now.
And with his tact all around.
And I also think that the point about the fact that a consultant might be able to reach it, have like a little pocket listing here and there, that might be useful as well. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I do think as well, like I think it was beneficial for us to see all the pool of resumes, I think definitely, Dr. Harrison needs to review through those as well. So I think we might make some adjustments, based on the last search and how we were using the consultant as well. Some tweaks to I think, so we can see all the candidates and have the consultants vetting and have Dr. Harrison's vetting as well on it, and our vetting as well through all of them. I would like to see that, because I think that was helpful.
And so if we're
and I
gonna,
don't know how many community forums, right? I mean, I know we'll need to have some parent, community, teacher, forums for some feedback as well, that we can decide how many we need to do on that. But I do think it would be good to get some public feedback and administrative feedback.
sure, then that's usually part of the process. But if we're going to go with this consultant route, which it seems like the majority of the board seems like they're in favor of going that way, then I guess the next step is accepting proposals from search consultants, because I do think, even though there might be a bias based on past history, I do think that we should probably take proposals from a bunch of search consultants and vet them that way and select.
I would be open to that, and just get different price points. And
I just think it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And so that's fine. And then I don't know if you want to appoint a sub committee, a steering committee that would work to kind of do some of the logistical stuff.
Yes, that's where I was going to go next. So I did want to get opinion, and then I don't know if I'm not sure if we need a motion around it to hire the consultant. We could solidify it that way, but I think it would be easier on all of us, as we've got lots of meetings going on, if we have a steering committee, a smaller group, to help find the consultant and then work through what the process is going to be. Bring that back to the board. I think that would be helpful. Unless everybody wants to do all the meetings all together, I'm okay going with a smaller steering committee. I think that would be helpful to move us through the process a lot faster.
Yeah, well, seeing how it's just our board, this isn't a tri-board kind of scenario. The full board is virtually the same size as the steering committee was for the superintendent. So, I mean, I don't see any issue with all board members attending all of the meetings. I think that's probably the right way to do it. I guess I'm just wondering, we just have to dig out the last job posting, when we did it the last time, and figure that out. And then how do we, put out the call for
consultants
search
Can I
consultants.
just ask Dr. Harrison, because he might have an insight into the consultant field. I mean, because you've worked with, I'm sure, some, besides the one that we hired for you, is there anyone else that you would recommend on a short list of consultants?
So typically the RESCs will also run searches, like CES. I know they have also been a consulting group that does searches in this area. There's the I can't think of the acronym, but the New England Council for Schools. It's not NEASC, but that's another consulting one. I think local is better, because I think that our to Mike's point, it's likely that our next high school principal is sitting in a school within a pretty tight radius around Barlow. So I don't think it's wise to go with an out-of-state one, or there are some big national ones that I'm more familiar with, because you hear about them with superintendent searches. But I could look into some additional options.
Right, but I think we just have to put it out there and accept bids from all of them.
Right.
And I think, to Dr. Harrison's point, usually there's CES, there's CABE has one as well. And then, when you talk about casting the wide net, there was like you know, Hazard and Young is like a national firm, and we.
Right, which I don't think we need to go.
No, I'm just
use?
throwing that out there. And Dr. Arardi is more of a local, and there's, you know, maybe one other ones, but there's really 4 or 5 that usually target this area that that will probably receive proposals from, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Who did RES use? Just curious.
Joe Arardi.
Yeah.
Okay.
John Reed, yeah.
I
Mhm.
thought he did a nice job. I know he was very, he was opinionated in some things, but I also thought he had some good insights too that we would not have been able to glean on our own with
Yeah,
regard to.
I'm sure if we ask for consultants, I'm sure he'll throw his hat in the ring with everyone else. But I would like to get a couple just so we have a few to look at and a couple different price points as well.
Yeah, I just think that's
Just to
the
do our
right way to
diligence
go.
there.
And then we'll vet through them.
And for public record as well, right? We're talking external candidates, but it also would be available for anybody within our district or the region 9 Eastern Reading districts, anybody else as well that's looking from internal to.
Yeah. Well, once you post it,
Apply
it's
for it.
open for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know we've just been talking about, people from surrounding schools, but we will also entertain people from within our schools as well. Just wanted
Absolutely.
to make sure that was clear. All right, so it sounds like then we're leaning towards consultant, maybe getting a steering committee of a subset of us, just to work through the logistics, get the consultant inquiries going, get the job posting going, and then a timeline that we can come back with to work from.
Well, did you want to just direct central office to post for a consultant? And then, because I think typically before we start to do the job description and all that, you'll want to pick the consultant first.
Yes.
And then work on that through them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I
So
step one is
in the order, we
consultant.
post for the consultant first, and then I would think we could form, using this group, if we wanted to do this, the smaller steering committee, we should do that here now, right? That then could work with central office as the consultants are coming back in and so forth to help that through that. Otherwise, we're going to have to get this group together a couple more times, right, to vet through things.
Well, just so that we're clear, so this is
this is our search committee.
But so this meeting here is discussing something that's a public matter, which is whether or not to hire a search consultant and to detail what the process will be for the selection of the new head of school, right? But
Correct.
Moving forward, personnel search committees and steering personnel search steering committee meetings, those are non-meetings, so they are not public meetings. They do not have to be posted, and that can so when we talk about getting everyone to get, those are non-meetings. So
right, where we don't need quorum and so forth. So that will help. All right, so I guess we'll if we can get a motion maybe around direction for central office to post for a consultant, and then if we wanted to form a smaller steering committee underneath the search committee, which is all of the board, probably another motion around that to get those two formalized here in public. Mike. I saw your hand first. You can make the motion.
My hand, but I mean, I don't need to. But so I'll make a motion that the Region 9 Personnel Search Committee direct central office to post for a search consultant for the Joel Barlow head of school / assistant superintendent.
Second.
Is that Karen? Karen, thank you. All right, any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none, then all in favor? Aye. All right, it's unanimous, passes 7-0. All right, and then for the matter of forming a subcommittee, a steering committee that can work through the responses coming back from the search for the consultant and start working with the consultant to get us moving forward.
I just have a question vis-a-vis the subcommittee. Can we confine the meetings of the subcommittee not to the daytime meetings that were sometimes percolating the last time, and know that
we
they'll
can
be at
control that.
night?
Yes. Yes, we can control that.
Just
Because-
us, so we can set them.
Definitely do
Because
that.
that was rough.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. And then as things are opening up, they think that committee can also decide if they want to continue doing them via Zoom or in person. But yes, I think we can control the schedule. I think it might be a little easier, and it's a smaller group of us to get together since we don't have the joint boards.
It's, you need a motion, right? So I can,
Yes, the motion to form the steering committee. And then I guess before we do that, my other, we were using the negotiating committee members the last time. So if we form the steering committee, who's going to be on the steering committee, because it won't make a lot of sense to put everybody on the search committee, which is all the board members, onto the steering committee. So if we are creating a steering committee with a few board members, do we want to use the negotiating committee for those members of the steering committee or add other people? So just throw that out for discussion before we make a motion here.
I did find it helpful, and we're small, it's only one board, right? It's not three. So
Yep.
I did find it helpful being not on the steering committee to listen in. And so, I don't want to necessarily, while I support the concept of a steering committee to move things along and not having to obtain quorum, which this wouldn't apply anyway because it's personnel, right? I don't want to restrict all of the board members from having an equal say and being able to have a robust dialogue or being able to interview folks if they want to. So, I mean, certainly though, if people aren't interested in time constraints, different story, but I don't necessarily want to restrict that because it's only 8 of us. So to the extent that people are interested, I don't want to necessarily just box us into, let's just go with these 3 people or these 4 people.
Yeah,
And I think
thoughts?
where I think Todd's suggestion is to, and typically this is, at the discretion of the chair when we do these searches. So we could make a motion to designate the chair to assign steering committee members, as he sees fit, to help facilitate the process and blah, blah, blah. Because we're really not, I'm saying we're not really suggesting that we're going to hold steering committee meetings where the full board would not be included, right? It's more
correct.
just to kind of facilitate and help administration work through some of the logistical matters. And my hope would be that we would hold meetings at times when the board can all attend. And because I don't think it's going to require 15 meetings. I think it's, it's just a few meetings. Again, as a personnel search committee, we can circulate job descriptions, stuff like that, work out that logistical stuff, on our own. And then we would have to meet to, obviously select a search consultant and then for the vetting of the candidates and stuff. But I would, again, I would feel the whole board would be included.
I think that's a good idea too. And honestly, and since it's in the evenings and we don't require quorum, I mean, I gather whoever can show up,
show up.
show up, and that's, if you can't, you can't. I mean.
Yep.
So that means not doing a subcommittee, or what are we saying?
I still think it well, if we meet as the personnel search committee, they've got to be public meetings, right? And notice. So if we do as the steering committee, so we can have non-meetings as the steering committee. I just want to make sure we're clear, because if we can do non-meetings and not have quorum as a personnel search committee,
we can do that.
Then we may not need the steering committee. It can be whoever shows up, as long as we have some board members to help, vet things and work through logistics and so forth.
Yes.
And we can stay away from the steering committee. I'm okay with that.
Well, and that's fine. Yeah, because both personnel search committees and the subset of that committee are non-meeting. So they're both held, they're not executive session, they're non-meeting. So those are, you know, you don't need quorum, you don't need to post them. Those are non-meetings. Those are, you know, negotiating sessions, so to speak. So those are fine. But yes, we don't need, you know, it's like I said, usually it's the chair's discretion. And the only reason you say, you know, hold us, you know, authorize the chair to appoint subcommittees to help with logistics and blah, 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 or whatever. But you can also just designate members as you see fit that to help you out, or you can do it yourself. I mean, there's
Yep.
lots of ways that we can do this. I think we're pretty much in agreement that when we do meet to make decisions, whether it's selecting a search consultant or deciding on, you know, important aspects of the search or vetting candidates, I guess the expectation would be we would all meet as a group, as a personnel search committee.
Yeah, and open to everybody. Yeah, if they want to make it. Yep. All right. So I'll just check again. So if everybody's okay with that, then this group then will continue to move forward the personnel search committee. We would not do a steering committee and have me appoint some people to that. We can just work through again, you know, reviewing consultants and other logistics and conduct non meetings of the personnel search committee. So we don't have to try to get quorum every time. And
Sometimes it's nice to do it as a full board too, because everyone can
Yep.
offer other aspects of it and we can work together. I think sometimes that's nice.
all right, I'm okay with that. Is the rest of the board members, it's good with that?
Mhm.
Does it sound like a course to move forward? Okay, so then I don't think we need any other motions. I was saying the main thing is getting the search consultant started, which we've already made that motion, and then just deciding if we needed the steering committee. I think those were the main two things that I wanted to make sure we had covered so we can get the process going. If any other
Right.
board members have any other thoughts or anything on the process that we wanted to talk about now while we're all together.
Well, so the only other thing that I would suggest is that maybe we discuss a tentative timeline, just so that we, you know, a lot of times when we do these types of initiatives, it's good to kind of know what we need to do by what date so that everything stays on track. So if you're looking for a July 1 hire, right, you want to be interviewing in what, April, May, June?
I
Dr.
would-
Harrison?
Yeah, I
any
was just say,
thoughts on
Dr.
that?
Harrison, if you want to weigh in, I think if we could get a search consultant posting out and hopefully get them hired by the end of March, you know, through, you know, vetting, contracting into March 1st to April. How does that work towards interviewing candidates and all that?
Right. So I think about if we want a July 1 start, then we want to be able to name a candidate by early May, which would mean that we would need to have the consultant on board by beginning of April.
Okay. So essentially we have 2 to 3 weeks. Two weeks would be optimal to try to
So 2 to 3
down
weeks. So get
a
it posted for a search consultant, you know, get somebody vetted, hired, contracted within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So I'll have to double check our policy on posting of an RFP. But if we go a typical RFP process, I think that it has to be posted for a certain amount of time. Is that right?
I believe so, but it's not a long time. I
Okay.
think it's something, I don't know. It's a lot shorter than you would typically think. It's not like 3 weeks or something like that.
Okay. All right.
It's a
I was-
shorter.
But it sounds like even if we go into the first week of April, so if we go 3 to 4 weeks instead of 2 to 3 weeks, I think we'd still be okay from an interviewing. Once we've onboarded the consultant, work through timelines, logistics, a lot, get the posting out for the candidate, get some resumes in,
Mhm,
could still be interviewing in April.
mhm.
may make the last part of April pretty tight, but sounds like we could still get it going.
Well, we'll work quickly on the RFP process and turning that around to get it posted.
Okay.
I do just have a question since we're talking about that. I mean, is there anything now that there's an opportunity to perhaps look at the leadership different, or, you know, and right now I know you're relatively new. Is there anything that as superintendent you'd like to see run differently, or perhaps have a different criteria or oversight role, or changing the job description of the head of school, or just based on what you're seeing, you're you know, comfortable with the structure, the leadership structure at Barlow?
Yeah, I definitely have some ideas that I think that I could look at the previous job description and posting, and you know, just share with the board. I was going to say steering committee, but I think I got lost.
The board, search committee.
We're the search committee now.
I'll share with all of you.
Yes, the search committee / board.
With y'all, right? I'll share with y'all my some of the thoughts of ways that I think maybe it could be not even so much restructured, but just you always want to update when you have an opportunity to hire.
Sure. Yeah, update the role. Yeah.
Yeah.
Role and responsibilities. Okay, no, that'd be great. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. So rough timeline again, just to recap, you know, we'll get RFP out for consultant here in the next week, you know, let's say 2 to 4 weeks to get through that whole process. The search committee here again would have to meet to vet, select, then we would contract the consultant, and then they would start doing their timeline. So hopefully we would have posting candidates coming in, down selected, all that kind of stuff. We'll work through the details of that, but start interviewing candidates hopefully, you know, late April into hopefully late April into early May, and have somebody selected. And it's going to be a bit compressed. We'll work the timeline. But yeah, hopefully if the RFP is only a couple of weeks in duration, that will help us, because that's probably the big lag at this point to get us going.
Yeah, and so again, as an individual, my suggestion would be to ask administration to compress that timeline for the RFP to whatever our minimum posting requirement would be. And I know that might sound like I'm trying to rush it, but I'm really not. I think these consultant firms are out there. They're prepared to bid and to send proposals really quickly.
Yep.
And so rather than saying, you know, 2 to 4 weeks, if we can do it and say 2 weeks, I would be more in favor of trying to do it in 2 weeks and save that time so that we don't get rushed at the end. But that's just my preference.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, if we could get through that whole process through the end of March, so April, we're in the process of posting, vetting candidates, interviewing candidates to try to hit an early May decision point would be good. So,
and you know, just as another point to that RFP process and competitive bidding, that policy is your policy as the board, and so you can choose to deviate from your policy with compressing the timeline. So, I mean, I think that's fine.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll pull the policy and then we'll get the RFP going. We'll take a look at the policy and see what the timeline's in it. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head for the posting period, so we'll take a look at that.
Right. I'm not even sure we have a timeline. You know.
Yeah, I don't recall what's in it. I haven't looked at it recently.
I was going to say 10. I think we've done some in the past and then like 10 days. You know, so I think.
Yeah, I can't remember
because we've been in situations where we've, you know, time has been of the essence and we really didn't have a lot of time. So I think we have in the past.
Okay.
I think the policy is just that we do it rather than the process for, you know, how long.
Right. I'm looking at the policy now. I don't see a timeline. So I think we will.
Okay. So we'll set one then with a reasonable response time in it, but not too long. Okay. Any other comments on that? So I don't think we need any other motions. I think we're set with the posting for the search consultant And sounds like we've got consensus on how to move forward and a rough timeline and for everybody's planning of when you're going to have lots more meetings added onto your calendars for interviewing. All right. Okay, if nothing else, then we'll close out that discussion possible action topic and move on to item 5, public comment. So again, there are a few members of the public on. If you would like to speak, wave or show signal with your hand. Name and address, limit your comments to 2 minutes, and again to the agenda item of the search process for the assistant superintendent and head of school. All right, I don't see any. I see Dana Benson. Go ahead.
Dana Benson, 34 Pond Road, Easton. Just curious if the updated description or the existing description for the 2 positions is available to the public, and if so, where, and if the change in the position description, if that will be made public.
Yes, we will post the position and it will be made public.
And would that be on the ER? Which website would that be on?
It hasn't
That's a
been
good question.
posted yet. It hasn't
Typically,
been-
Yeah, it
I'm
hasn't
saying
been
our
posted yet.
website is-
It'll either be on Central Office or Region 9.
Yeah.
Okay, Central Office of Region 9. Thank you very much.
Under the Human Resources tab.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the public for comment? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to item 6, board member comment. All right, seeing none, is saving all your comments for the next meeting. All right, we'll move on to item 7, then adjournment. Have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Karen and Mary Lee.
I gotta go get some leave. For the next meeting. All right, I'll
All
be
right.
back.
All right, I'm assuming no other discussion on this, so we're adjourned at 7:19, and we'll see everybody back at 7:30 on a different Zoom link for the budget workshop number 2. Thank you, everybody. You got a few minutes. Thank you, Mike.